We absolutely love her hits. She digs into stories. She tells all sides of it, unlike a lot of other people in the mainstream media. So good morning. You deserve that compliment. This Equinox story, if people haven't heard about it, is just remarkable. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You guys are the best. We appreciate that. Yeah, Equinox. So let's tell you about this story in case our viewers at home have never heard about Equinox. It's a high-end luxury gym. There's franchises all over the country. So I want to tell you about this story. They were involved in a lawsuit recently, and they lost. Here's the details. So one of their locations in New York City hired a woman named Robin Europe. She was hired to manage the personal trainers at this particular location, but she didn't work there for very long. After just 10 months on the job, Equinox fired her. Now, Equinox says that she was fired because she showed up late to work 47 times in that 10-month period. She says she was fired because of her race and gender. And a jury agreed with her. So much so, the court awarded Miss Europe more than $11 million in damages. Europe was represented by a firm that calls itself the Feminist Litigation Firm. It's made up of all females. Now, they didn't deny that Miss Europe was, in fact, late. Their argument was that Equinox used her being late to work as a pretext for termination. They said other employees were also late to work. They were not fired, only she was. Now, Miss Europe contends that she was the victim of a hostile work environment, alleging that a white employee made vulgar remarks about Black people and called one Black employee, quote, lazy. She claimed that at one point, this white employee asked her to help him connect with a Black woman who he wanted to date, which she apparently thought was offensive. She testified at trial that Equinox repeatedly ignored her complaints of racist and sexually inappropriate behavior. And according to the New York Times report, these incidents caused her psychological distress and worsened her eating disorder. Now, in a statement to CBS Money Watch, Equinox reacted to the ruling, saying that Equinox doesn't tolerate discrimination in any form, and that, quote, this is a case of termination for performance related to attendance and nothing more. We vehemently disagree with the jury's findings, as well as the unjust and excessive award, and have filed a motion seeking to have the judge overturn this jury's decision. And guys, I think this case is getting so much attention. So many people are talking about this case because they're really kind of questioning that award. So we weren't in court, we weren't on the jury, didn't hear all the evidence presented, but it certainly seems by like the circumstances that have been reported publicly, is $11 million an appropriate amount to award the plaintiff in this case? We'll see if the judge reconsiders as Equinox is requesting them to do so.
Amazing.
I mean, I would assume that she wasn't going to make $11 million in the next year or two that she was working at Equinox. I could be wrong, so it just seems so disjointed.
But she had psychological distress.
The other part of this story that doesn't add up for me is that she was upset because a coworker asked her to hook him up with a friend of hers who happened to be Black, and that was offensive?
Yeah, that's apparently the case.
Yeah.
And she called somebody lazy.
Crazy.
Who was African American, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, obviously we weren't there, and it should be, you know, adjudicated and dealt with. No place for racial, sexual discrimination in the workforce. Get that. But if you're late for work, how do you get rewarded 47 times? That would suggest there were other issues at play. Again, not minimizing the others, but if you're not showing up for work on time, how do you run a business? If somebody doesn't show up, you can't fire them?
How appropriate, I mean, how appropriate is the award, though? Like, okay, so let's say the lady was fired. She needed to get back on her feet. $11 million?
Yeah.
It's probably definitely more than she was going to earn in her lifetime, most likely, based on statistics.
Working at Equinox.
Statistics.
Carolyn, final word from you, my friend.
Yeah, the other thing I think people that confuses about these types of racial discrimination cases is that you're saying that you were fired on the basis of race and gender, but you were also hired there. So if they're so racist, how would you justify or swear that they hired you to begin with?
That's a great point.